So you're a philosopher?
Yes.
You're a philosopher?
Yes. Yes. I think very deeply. Yes. I think very deeply. I think very deeply. I think very deeply. I think very deeply. Yes.
You're ravaged by fear just like they are. God did not give us the spirit of fear. That's his word. He did not give us the spirit
and do it honestly.
boldly in his word.
Yes. And let the chips fall where they may.
That's right.
You at least need to go out and do your job, do it honestly, do it ethically, do it boldly.
Mm-hmm. And without fear.
Yes.
Y'all learned something again. Yeah, and you know, Nancy Pelosi was one of the first ones to put the progressives that we elected in office into the back bench. To tell them to shut up and quiet down because you think you know what you're doing. You don't have the kind of courage that it takes to walk in this country black like
crap, though.
Okay, you know, saying a mean tweet ain't fixing shit. So you know, right? That doesn't stop this kind of violence from happening over and over fucking again. And you being afraid doesn't fix it.
Well, and here's my question. I mean, do our elected officials honestly think that social media is the same thing as governing? So you go out and you post something on social media and you say, well, I blame the Republicans for this, or I blame the Democrats for that. And meanwhile, nobody is getting anything done. And you constantly and rightfully say that you are concerned, Democrats, about the strength and life of our democracy. And rightfully so. But then you posting about it or talking about it doesn't get anything done.
It doesn't.
You have to do stuff about it.
You have
and
to
make sure that you uphold this democracy for everyone, not just for those of us who agree with you, but for those of us who don't, right? Because that's a democracy for everyone.
We're being so frightened. I hear that word all the time. Here's what's frightening. Here's what's scary. Here's what I'm worried about. Here's what concerns me. How about getting mad?
Right.
I want you to get at least half as mad as I am. I've been angry since 2021, January 6th. I've been seething. And if any of y'all, again, they're not the ones with the anger, FYI. They're the ones with the fear. They're afraid. They're afraid of boogeymen.
Anything. And so we have people who are like, well, you know, maybe this could happen, and if this is right, but you've got to make sure. And I'm tired of hearing all of that.
That mealy mouth shit ain't gonna win it. It ain't gonna win it. You can't tiptoe to this victory. Again, for 10 years, black people and white people and people of all different races locked arms. It took 10 years. People getting lynched, people getting murdered, churches getting firebombed to get the Civil Rights Act. And yet, Democrats said, oh, well, we can't do voting rights because there are 2 Democrats in our party blocking the way. And if we don't do it, then they're going to switch parties. Let them, because you're still not getting shit. What's the difference?
Call their bluff. I mean, because honestly, you're not getting anything done with them in the party. I mean, effectively, Mitch McConnell is the speaker, but he's the Senate Majority Leader, right?
Right.
Nothing gets done without his blessing.
And that's no excuse. Because again, our vice president went to Joe Manchin's district and was like, fuck it, we need this Voting Rights Act the first 6 months of this administration. And what happened? He said he went and complained to the other white dude and said, oh, you got your vice president in my state. She better watch her mouth. And what did Joe do?
See, no. And that would have sent me over the edge.
Oh, yeah.
My face, Joe.
Yeah, let me talk to him. I can talk to him. And all he did was slap you around and spin you around for 2 whole fucking years. And here we are. And the answer for Democrats is we need more Democrats in the Senate. So you need to get out and vote. Bitch, I wish I would.
Because here's the thing. We gave you a House. We gave you a Senate. We gave you a presidency. And then we expected you to do what you promised what you would do with that majority.
And those 2 years.
And now you're like, well, but we need more.
Yeah.
And you know what? Who is going to come out and vote for you? Because you know what? You have done nothing about voting rights. And they're under attack right now.
The original Voting Rights Act, FDR LBJ had a much harder road to hoe.
Oh,
He had to convert full-on segregationists to vote for that bill. He had to twist arms. He had to threaten. He had to sweeten the pot. He had to do whatever he had to do to get that bill across the line. You got 2 Democrats in your own fucking party blocking the way. I don't accept that as an excuse. You're afraid, well, if Republicans get in power again, you're almost guaranteeing that they will.
Well, and not only that, but see, you're operating like they already are in power.
Right.
Let's talk about that first. Like, I haven't seen what you would do if you had power, because you've done nothing.
You've done nothing.
And here's the thing. This is what I would like to call out also, is that these seditionists who are currently serving in our government, in the January 6th, just attempt to destroy our democracy. They took part in this. And our Constitution says that they should be dismissed from service. Not they may be, or here's a thought, here's a suggestion. No, it says they should be removed.
It'd be too partisan. It could be political.
But what else was partisan and political?
What the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, because no one should be okay with what took place that day.
This is the equivalent as if Robert E. Lee was allowed to take a vote in the Congress during the Civil War.
Right. And thank God he was not.
He was not. They were all expelled from Congress.
Right. That's how you operate the government, because that's the way the government, our rules were written.
That's right. You fired on this government, you get the fuck out of our government. You don't get the vote.
No.
You're part of the Confederacy, well then you can't be part of the United States Congress. And yet, we're like, oh, well they could take over Congress if we don't get enough people to vote. Okay, I'm gonna use this example. Black men have had the right to vote in this country since 1867. So that's why we had to fight a whole civil rights movement to get them that right to vote. Because they were voting at 90% in the 1860s and 70s.
And we can't have that.
Reconstruction ended, it went down to 3% at the beginning, and that was state laws. That was state voting laws.
But now you're talking about history, and it makes people uncomfortable, and it makes them feel guilty, and oh, my hurt feelings, and my poor soft skin.
Well, Democrats better fucking listen, because again, all these bills that have been passed to restrict voters have been passed in states.
Yes.
So you're telling us we need to vote in even larger numbers than we did in 2020.
And thank you to making our job, those of us who actually do care about our democracy. And I'm not talking about this like I want the Democrats, blah, blah, blah. Everything that we say and do is perfect and wonderful, and we're going to win, we should win, and blah, blah. No, I'm talking about an American citizen who wants to preserve our democracy, who believes that every single person who is a citizen of this country has the right to vote, should have that our elected officials should not be able to pick their voters. The voters should be able to pick our elected officials, that gerrymandering should be done away with completely, that if you did participate in this January 6th, just attempt to destroy our democracy, you should be removed from Congress immediately. And nothing that you say should ever be relevant again. Done. Full stop.
Again, that's up to the Speaker of the House. Yes?
Yeah. Nancy, where are you on that?
Needs to police their own party. Are we really going to be that silly? That you really think that these insurrections, 136 of them voted the same day the Capitol was attacked to nullify the actual legitimate vote? And you think they're going to police themselves? Again, McCarthy said, we all know now, because it's on audio, he said right after, everything that we all know to be true. Right. This is fucked up. This is wrong. And then 2 weeks later was like, or 3 days later or some shit. Oh, I never said that. Well, I didn't mean that. Well, Trump's forgiving me, so.
And you guys are going back to this whole idea that, what you have crowned him king, by the way. And we don't have kings in this country.
We're not supposed to.
So you have messed up on that, the record. And so, no, Nancy, you don't leave them the right to police themselves. That's irresponsible. You're being a bad parent.
Yeah.
Stop it.
That's somebody who's afraid to put the,
your job.
Time out, because that helps while they still have their TVs
and
their tablets.
I'm going to count to 3. I'm not counting, by the way.
Yeah. This is ridiculous.
No. My parents didn't count.
And again, they don't understand. Joe Biden, his number one issue now in the midterms is inflation. The abortion. And this is what they said. Oh, if they overturn Roe v. Wade, well, that'll inspire our voters in the midterms.
Here's what should inspire you to do your job. The fact that you have that job, that you were elected to do a job, and the fact that you promised that you would do a job.
If you did your job, you wouldn't need any other issue to motivate voters. And then all that what you said about voting is all in the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
It is.
All of that.
You should have. Wait a minute. Am I wrong? But didn't they say failure is not an option?
Failure is not an option. We got your back. Since when? Listen, I don't need your fucking lip service. And guess what? We're the ones who tip the balance. You're talking to the white working class as if there's no black working class or no Latino working class. So let's start with that. But again, you're talking to these people who never would vote for you, who don't tip the scale. Because again, in 2020, the majority, and I'm going to say it again, the majority of white women and white men voted for Trump again in 2020. It was us. It was 94% of black women who made the difference. It was 74% of Latinos who made the difference, who took the scale. And that's why there are 440-something bills in states across this country to silence that vote. And your answer to us, after not passing the Voting Rights Act, after saying, "Oh, we'll get to it, and don't worry, failure's not an option."
I don't even want to begin to hear what they are going to say in November of this year.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do? I mean, honestly, at that point, you have effectively, if you lose this, and with this track record that you have, you will. Then what are you going to do? Because you will have effectively given away our democracy.
Now, here's your saving grace.
On you guys.
Here's your saving grace, because once again, Trisha and I and the new progressives and every black person on the ground, we're going to put on our superwomen capes and save America again. What you don't understand is you're not changing hearts and minds, you assholes. You're not the ones who get the millions and the overwhelming vote out to the polls. They weren't voting because they loved Joe Biden.
No.
Biden got out the vote because we recognize the threat that you don't see. You're like, oh, my colleagues across the aisle, these are fucking insurrectionists. These are seditionists. These are fascists who want to put us back in chains, who want to take away our rights. We know that, whether you know it or not. But we have to convince these people who barely pay attention to politics. Right now, I know tens of black people, young ones that will come out to vote, because I'm going to make sure they do, that have no idea what's going on right now. They haven't paid attention to anything that's going on in the January 6th committee. They're watching the NBA playoffs right now. They don't care about shit else. They don't care about what's going on. This news bugs them. They're like, there they go. Yeah. There they go. Right? This is us on the ground talking to people, and you're making our job that much harder because you're blind as fuck in your white fucking condition.
And you can't see anything other than, oh, well, we gave you COVID relief. Well, yeah, you should have. And I'm glad that we had that, yes, because it was necessary.
It was necessary.
You understand that your job is more than just making sure that we are recovering from a pandemic, which, by the way, we have not fully recovered. So you know.
No, but that's because
they're still lingering.
Just like overturning Roe v. Wade. Oh, that hits you close to home, right? That's in your backyard, huh? You needed vaccination. You needed COVID relief. And when just black people who needed it, you needed it too. So this is urgent and necessary. But voting rights, they're attacking black and brown people. So we care, and we're going to help you. And failure's not an option. Listen, don't play me, you dumbass. Don't play me.
Don't do it. And meanwhile, while you sit there and remain feckless
Mm-hmm.
in your job,
Mm-hmm.
things are continuing to escalate
Mm-hmm.
and repeat and snowball.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we have idiots like DeSantis in Florida who's like, well, we can't have them talk about critical race theory, which no one is, for the record, DeSantis.
And race theory is a legal theory and a legitimate one.
Yes,
you're not in law school. You're not learning about that. So
no. So what we need people in this country to understand is what our actual history is, though. And you don't want to talk about that.
Oh, because they're against bursting myths.
I get hurt. Well, no one's blaming you personally for that, but I will blame you if you don't let actual history be taught, because I don't want to repeat a lot of it, for the record.
And again, that's how you get crazies like this, because they don't understand. They don't know. There is no replacement theory. You create a boogeyman for them. Fucker Carlson and the entire right-wing media and the entire elected officials in the Republican Party have created this boogeyman for them. We're not the boogeyman. We're the ones trying to save democracy for you and for me.
Right. Not just for the ones who believe as we do.
Mm-hmm.
But even those of you who don't think that people like us.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So again, this lunacy. We spotted it a mile away when you didn't elect Democrats. Again, you want to know how to win this? Ask a black woman. Get mad. Quit being afraid.
Well, because here's what I don't know why you think that what you're doing is going to win you any favor in November this year.
Right.
Nothing that you are doing. And by the way, they are taking the failures that they see that you are exacting on the country. They're making those talking points and wedge issues that are going, if people are, the propaganda, you know what I mean? Propagandization, is that a word? Not a word. Whatever. That. That is becoming a thing that they do with every single issue. Now, we know that, gas prices, for example, are not ever the president's fault.
No.
Good or bad.
Especially this one. Right. Because COVID. We didn't have to have a pandemic unleashed in this country for a couple of years. There was a moron in office.
Right.
That's why it's unleashed.
Because, what do you think is going to happen when you get rid of an entire epidemiology department?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just saying that was a thing that could have been avoided. We could have avoided COVID in this country.
When you have a president who's like, oh, yeah, just shoot yourself with bleach, inject bleach, and that should fix it. Yeah, or take a horse dewormer pill. That'll fix it.
Or let's not talk about the number of cases.
That'll look bad.
People in the cruise ship off the shore. Don't let them come into the country. It makes my numbers look bad.
Because we're only 15 dead if you do that.
No, that is a disaster. So we had the pandemic, right? We had Putin as a problem. We have who was it that was speaking the other night? It was talking about the 4 Ps. So the pandemic, Putin. There are 4 real concrete issues that are creating the inflation problem that we have, the gas price problem that we have, the supply chain. Another, the product supply chain. Yes. So we have real problems here that are not the fault of one party or another, honestly. I mean, well, I can show you where Republicans, you are
pandemic supply chain, one and the same.
But Democrats, I blame you for not being bold and standing up and saying this would stop.
But again, that's the excuse Republicans want to tag Biden with and Democrats with.
Yes.
This is their inflation. Ask a black person. I'm going to tell you what black mothers and black fathers and young black men are pissed about. Why Joe Biden's numbers are on the wrong track, 76%. But yet we know enough to know that, we don't want those other freaks in office. Here's what they're pissed about, Joe. and every Democrat in office, because every day, just like that bus full of lacrosse black women from the lacrosse team getting pulled over and searched by fascists in Georgia, that happens every day. That happens every damn day in this country to black people. Now, you don't know it. You don't see it. But mothers and fathers of these black girls and these black boys see it. For generations, it's happened in this country. And you said, we got your back. You got us elected and we got your back. And we were voting on that. After the murder of George Floyd that we all saw in real time, that we were voting on. That's why you had a record number. There were people who have never voted before, never thought about voting before, but they said, that's enough. You had white kids that saw that and were like, that's enough. And they came out to vote for that because we knew the voting rights were under attack. And those are the two issues that had to take the back seat because, white people ain't going to vote for that. Two white people in the Democratic Party blocked that. I'm not giving you that excuse. Vice President Harris had it right when she went to Joe Manchin's district and said, look, I'm going to talk to the people of West Virginia. Do y'all want this? Do y'all want this changed? And he said, you let her come in my state?
See, that's...
Let me talk to the white guy. How did that work out, Joe? He defeated the right to choose also. Okay.
Yeah, so thanks, Manchin. I guess.
In the filibuster, and make those two vote with your caucus. Make them. If FDR can twist 17 hands of actual segregationists in the 1960s, you telling me you can't convince these two? Because Joe Manchin ain't representing the people of West Virginia. Most of the people in West Virginia don't vote in presidential or midterm elections. Let's be clear. He's being backed by the big money in West Virginia, the coal industry in West Virginia. Yep. That's who he's answering to. He's not answering to the people. And that's why, again, ask a black woman. Quit asking white people why your numbers aren't where they are. Ask the people that tip the scales for you. And if you want us...
You make promises to.
We're not goofy. We're not like Republicans. I know y'all, some of y'all think that we're automatically less intelligent and less sophisticated than you so-called elected officials. But let me tell you something. There's a lot of us with a lot of natural wisdom and common sense who see what's going on. You want us to convince them to come out to vote? I'm going to do my part. I'm going to vote. I don't not vote.
I will always vote. I vote in every election. Every time that there's an opportunity for me to say I'm going to participate as the American citizen that I am, then I vote every time.
But here's the conversation you don't hear that I hear. Well, what did they do? We voted. We stood in line. We voted for this. They ain't do shit about George Floyd. They ain't do shit about voting rights. They still ain't doing shit about... I've got to convince them. Trisha's got to convince them. Us on the ground who know... Again, you think you know black people, but you don't. You know elected officials who are black. You know people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. You know people who go to suits and ties. Those are the black people you know. You don't know the people like me who go to grocery stores and work behind cashier registers and shit, who see and hear this and like, but yeah, a black kid in our state, in our city, just got killed by the police. I thought we were supposed to be doing justice reform. I thought there was supposed to be policing reform. Well, I'm gonna tell them. Yeah, they didn't do it because there were two Democrats who voted against being in the filibuster. So
what we need you to do is go out and stand in line for 14 hours again. And we need you to give them more
power. I mean, before in the pandemic, there were mail-in balloting, there was drop-off boxes, there were all kinds of ways for people to vote that made it easier. All of those laws have been repealed.
Now, there are so many states that were allowing that to happen. Make no mistake that there are a number of Republican people who take advantage of those opportunities all the time. So, but when it became very apparent that oh, well, looks like the libertards are going to be doing this too.
Mm-hmm.
Then that had to change. So now suddenly you have one ballot box or one drop box in the whole county,
Mm-hmm.
like basically all of Houston.
Yep.
That's insane. How is that fair?
That's
Abbott doesn't care because the people that he wants to vote for him, who are likely white,
mm-hmm.
incredibly ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what's going on. They don't know our history. They don't know the difference between fascism and democracy, socialism, communism. You name any of the isms, they could not tell you the difference in them.
Mm-mm.
So this is a problem, but they're going to vote because he has an arm behind his name.
That's right. And so again,
for them.
Meanwhile,
you still don't have any protection with your electricity in the winter. So should it happen again, and it will, then what? You're going to vote for him again? Because that's stupid.
In the 2 years the Democrats have had a 51 vote majority with Vice President Harris in the Senate, we have more rights to vote. And you think we're going to give you more senators? You know good and fucking well that's bullshit. You want to operate from the minority because that means you don't have to do anything.
Right. Mm-hmm.